Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Rudnick. I'm an advisor in Fulton Engineering. I would like to start today by thanking our panelists for taking time out of their days to be with us on our Career Exploration Night panel on data process optimization and management. Just so everybody knows, this event is being recorded. We're all Zoom pros at this point, but if by some chance something was to happen, you got kicked out of the meeting or the meeting shut down, please utilize the link that we were given you via email to get back in. Give us a couple minutes to get things going again. We're going to have panelists from 4:30 to 5:30, and then we're going to take a brief break and switch out our panelists and come back for another panel from 5:30 to 6:30. As the moderator, I'm going to start with prepared questions directed to some or all of the panelists. Panelists, I will attempt to use your name so that you know the question is coming at you. If for some reason you don't feel comfortable with the question or you feel it's not right for you, you can just tell me pass. And if I direct a question at a specific individual and somebody else would like to jump in at the end of their answer, please feel free to do so. Students, your attendance is being recorded based on your registration information and length in the meeting. This will be given to your ASU 101 instructor. All right. We encourage you guys to ask questions. You can use that using the Q&A box on the black Zoom bar to type those career-related questions for our panelists. You can make up your own questions, use questions from the worksheet, but I also encourage you to listen to the panelists and what they're saying, and maybe create some follow-up questions based on what they're saying to help the conversation move along, and so you guys can get the most out of it that you can. We will start with some prescribed questions that we already created, and then we will move on to your questions. Our Q&A moderator will read those as we see fit throughout the meeting. Panelists, if you haven't already, please take yourself off mute, but remain with your videos off. First question is going to go out to all of you. And it's a pretty basic one. I would like to help our students, first year students, get to know you all. So if you could, please give me your 1 to 2 minute professional pitch about yourself and include how your formal education is used in your current or previous roles. Let's start going from left to right with Robert.
Well, good late afternoon, everybody. My name is Bob Mitchell. I am retired after 35 years of service with the 3M company, headquartered in Minnesota, but with operations in 65 different countries. I currently now reside in Arizona, have for the last 5 years, and I am the current chair of the ASQ Phoenix section. ASQ is the acronym for American Society for Quality. In addition to volunteering with ASQ, I'm also a trained and certified Baldrige evaluator for the National Quality Program. I started with 3M back in 1981. I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a chemistry and biology degree and minors in sociology and grammar. And I was hired into 3M company working on new products in one of their divisions. From there, once I began working in the new product development lab, I became exposed to a large number of new tools that I could use in my career and my profession. If I'm going to develop new products, I needed to develop some test methods and some qualification plans. And of course, then that drives into the need to understand statistics and experimental design. So my technical degree provided me the scientific background, the scientific approach. And then once I became employed with 3M, my career quickly moved from new product development to new process development, working in manufacturing plants and scaling up new equipment. And then after 15 years or so of what I would call the hard skills or the technical side of quality, and I moved into the management ranks of 3M. And over my 35-year career, I moved from individual contributor, that as an engineer, to supervisor, manager. I was division manager for 4 different divisions of 3M, and then worked up to the position of 3M's global quality director. And then upon retiring from 3M, I just want to continue dabbling and developing my career, developing my skills, and I'm an advocate of lifelong learning. So
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Joyce?
Hi, I'm Joyce Wiener. I am a data scientist and principal engineer at Intel Corporation. I work in the client engineering group. So we make laptops and desktop systems. And my team in particular is focused on motherboards and motherboards that are used in testing and validation for our hardware. I got my start, though, as a physics major. And then I got a degree in optics for my master's. And I began working at Intel in the manufacturing side of things like Bob, and worked in metrology originally. So I've been doing measurements and doing data science ever since I started at Intel. But when I started, there wasn't a discipline called data science. I used to have to say a whole paragraph to explain what I liked to do, which, was around data extraction and analytics and database design and all sorts of things. So now it's a lot easier for me to explain what I work on. In particular, I've been doing a lot with quality. I use data to drive efficiency in my team and across the company. And so I've also gotten a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, feel free to ask.
All right. Thank you very much, Joyce. Nichelle?
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Nichelle. Actually graduated from here with my bachelor's and master's in industrial engineering back in 2016, 2017, respectively. Right now, I'm currently a global reengineering manager at American Express. I started here as an industrial engineer and have been with the company for 3.5 years now. For those that don't know, industrial engineering is about making things better and about continuous improvement. So my roles at Amex have been revolved around that and making our internal processes optimized so that we can better service the customer and have it in a more efficient and effective manner. So the tools that I've used from school and in my job are around, data mining, data collection, cost benefit analysis, and project management. So it's a little bit of everything right now, but definitely used a lot of that throughout.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan Tran. I graduated from ASU back in 2014 with a bachelor's in industrial engineering. I'm currently a security risk analyst at Indeed. Prior to that, I actually worked at General Motors for roughly 6 years, where I actually jumped into IT and did various things from architecting and designing applications to configurations of servers and all the way up to project management. So overall, kind of have leveraged my degree in industrial engineering in general from a process improvement standpoint in kind of a different way, where I see, everything in general has a process and anything can be potentially leaned out or improved. So I've kind of taken that twist into IT instead.
Thank you very much. Quick follow-up question on that. You all each had a really good elevator pitch. Can we explain, one of you guys take a moment to explain why is that important to develop for our students?
I can take a crack at that, Sean.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so this is Joyce. It's amazing how many people you'll meet in a hallway at work when we're back in the office. And And it's very handy to be able to explain to somebody very quickly what it is you do and what you're currently working on. And what I've found over the years is that doing that means that, one, the interaction is memorable for the person that you just met in the hallway, and that can be handy later. And two, sometimes you get a surprising thing then later on, you'll get an email saying, hey, I thought I remembered you said you were working on such and such. Do you need some resources? I've got an extra server that you might want to borrow. Something like that will come up just out of that quick conversation. So that's why it's important.
Thank you. Our second question, once again, is for all panelists. The name of this panel is Data Process Optimization and Management. Seems like every company needs that to bring together people, processes, data, machines, to determine how to make things better all around. How have you guys seen that come about in your jobs, and do you see that as a hiring trend?
This is
We'll start
Bob
with
Mitchell.
Bob on the left again.
Sure. Well, you've probably all heard of the buzzword Industry 4.0. Basically looking at this is the fourth wave of the Industrial Revolution. And if you're not familiar with that concept, it's all about the first Industrial Revolution was moving from craftsmanship to mechanization and the standardization of parts. Industry 2.0 was the use of mass production, steam power came along, and then eventually electricity, and then Industry 3.0 lends itself to some semi-automated production, the use of computers, and maybe some ignorant robots, dumb robots. And then Industry 4.0 is more truly the smart factory, autonomous production, Internet of Things, machine learning, developing apps and writing code so you can collect data. And to go along with that, quality is changing as well. So I like to call it Quality 4.0 is all about data mining and big data and analytics. But you can't get work done unless you have people and people working cohesively in teams. So quality needs individuals not only with the technical background, but also people who have the mindset of working with others and valuing diversity and inclusion to form cohesive, engaged teams. Because through Industry 4.0, companies that make products we can release product based on the process variable. We no longer need to test the product. So that's the ultimate goal, is to reduce waste of testing, waste of resources. So that's how I see it all tying together.
Thank you, Bob. Joyce, your thoughts on the matter?
I certainly see a big change, and like Bob said, Industry 4.0 is a big thrust. So there's a lot of interest in that, and just a data transformation is another big buzzword in industry. And so there's need for people who can talk both sides. They can speak the data side to the IT department and programmers, and then they can speak the business unit side to the team that they work in. And that's one of the things that I've been doing in my career is have that almost bilingual capability, so that I'm an expert, a domain expert enough with the data itself to understand what it is that is needed from the business perspective, but also able to talk to programming teams and IT departments and database administrators in order to make all the pieces work together.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, and I definitely echo both of the other panelists. And because of this, there is a hiring trend to have colleagues that are well-rounded and that are able to adapt and collaborate with other people outside of your immediate team. And I mean, you don't need to be an expert at everything, but in order to be able to talk to both sides, that's what we value as well. So definitely just echoing Robert and Joyce there.
Thank you. Jonathan, how do you see all this coming together and hiring trends in around that?
Yeah, I'll be honest, dittoing all three of the other panelists, especially kind of my kind of career path of getting into IT. I think one of the biggest thing has been being technical and savvy enough in that aspect, but being able to still speak to, as Joyce mentioned, the business partners, and to understanding what their requirements are, relaying it back to our technical folks and vice versa, right? And I think just overall, as we are really at this point a global company, and other companies are global as well. You have to kind of be cross-functional, and you have to just understand enough of what everyone does to be able to kind of bring everyone all together. And I think that's a great skill set to have.
Thank you. Question number 3, once again, is for all the panelists. Can you please tell us one piece of career advice or an observation that you've had that you can share with our students who are just starting their ASU education a few weeks ago? What is that career advice you would give them to kind of get started and starting to build their professional selves and their professional career? We can start on the left-hand side again with Bob.
An excellent question, because I know a lot of the incoming freshmen are top of mind concerned about, so what are the top 1 or 2 things I should be doing to enhance my skill set when I start looking for a job when I graduate? And I would say from my experience, I too had a very technical background, but even while getting my science degree, I maintained a broad liberal arts perspective. Hence, I had minors in sociology and grammar, because you need to, as the second panelist said, and I apologize, I didn't catch the names, but it's very important that you can speak to all sides of the equation or of a process. You've got the hard data side and data transformation, and maybe chemistry, physics, other first principles. But then how do you communicate that and translate those needs into, say, the IT side, but then also from the other end of the process to bring the customer's perspective. So very important that you seek out a very broad liberal arts perspective while still majoring in a science. And then once you get to the point where maybe you have an opportunity to participate on an internship, very, very important that what you try to get as many different experiences as possible. So if you have the opportunity to intern as early as your sophomore year, that would be great, because sophomore, junior, senior year, you could intern at 3 different companies and get a dynamic perspective. Because once you get hired, it's very important for your career that you gain the visibility at the top. So you want to participate on as many teams as possible, seek as many new experiences, really broaden your reach and your impact. And then one of the key takeaways, one of the reasons I was promoted as fast as I was I received feedback that one of my strengths was I don't just come with problems, I come with a set of solutions. And that was a very, very powerful message to bring to upper management.
Thank you. Joyce, what's your piece of career advice for our friends today?
I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. One thing that I did well, and one that if I were going to do over, I might change. And that is, like Bob said, I took advantage of internships, even as early as being a rising sophomore. So if you can, look for those opportunities, and in fact, get ready now because companies will be starting to look for intern candidates as soon as the next month or so. Like November is a late kind of time frame for that for the summer. So get ready, and you know, use your internships. And this is one thing I did well, was using my internships to explore different areas. I wasn't quite certain what type of physics I wanted to pursue when I was first a freshman. There's a, you know, it's a big discipline, just like any discipline. And I used my internships to help me figure it out. And that was really great. And then the thing I would probably add on that I hadn't done was I would take more classes in statistics as an
Yay.
undergrad.
Yay.
Go math. Michelle, what kind of advice do you have for our students today?
One piece of advice I'd have is to never stop asking why. It's easy to go through the motions and just to get things done, but it definitely helps to understand why you're doing it in the first place or why it matters. Like an example of that is, like, I remember I applied to all the internships and all the jobs that I could find, and I didn't really get any because honestly, I just never knew how to answer that question, like, why do you want to be here? I mean, other than the obvious, you want experience and you want money, but it definitely helps as you go throughout your career to understand what you're doing, understand the goal you're trying to achieve, and in that way, then you'll be able to figure out how to approach it and kind of create your own journey from there.
Thank you. Jonathan, what tidbits do you have for our students?
Yeah, I would say one of the career advices from based on my experiences, being open and flexible. Overall, I think kind of having that mentality really gets you and opens up a lot of opportunities for yourself. Kind of like my own personal experience, my senior year, although I did receive an offer to do what I actually went to school for in industrial engineering, I chose a different route, mainly because I felt that, you know, if I wanted to go back to that field, I could, but at this point, you know, I've never had a regret choosing that and being open-minded to other things in terms of career and career growth in general. And I think that has kind of been my mindset that has taken me where I am today.
Thank you all. One thing I kind of noticed with your guys' answers to these questions was you guys definitely all value your education, your formal education, but it did seem like there is a lot of building of soft skills, as we like to call them, that come into play. And those things seem to, everybody in our panel today has similar degrees. It kind of sounds like what you guys are saying is it's those extra experiences, it's building in those secondary soft skills that really kind of set you apart from everybody else and make you stand out. Would that be accurate? Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I would
Go
say
ahead.
that's accurate. I mean, you could be the brightest person there is, but if you can't communicate that to anyone, it really doesn't go very far. So it, you know, not only should you be sort of the expert on what you're talking about, but you need to be able to communicate it and make sure that others understand you as well.
I heard internships mentioned. What outside of that activity, are there any other activity you guys utilized when you were in school to help you build those skill sets?
Hey, Sean, so I can answer that one. This is Joyce. I actually did also undergraduate research during the semesters, off and on, depending on my course load. I didn't do it when I was taking, 16 plus credit hours, but if I had a semester where it was a little lighter, I would do that. And I did all sorts of things from One semester, I helped build apparatus to do some testing in the psychology department because I had a degree in optics, or well, I was getting a degree in optics. I could do some work there. And another semester, I did some historic research and wrote a paper that was eventually published in an astronomy journal.
Wow, amazing. Probably got you some pretty good recognition there.
It was helpful, yeah. So National Science Foundation program is something to take a look for.
Good to know. Thank you. So Sigrid, do we have any questions from the students at this point?
Yeah, I had a couple that I believe the one was already answered, but there is one that's still here. Anthony wanted to know, what about yourself, referring to the panel, did you think made a company notice you when deciding to accept you for an internship at that time in your schooling?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. So during my sophomore year, I actually interned at American Express, and the following year I did the same. And I remember getting the call for the interview, and being a sophomore at that point, you know, at ASU, we were still in those classes, you know, with the basic classes with physics, calculus, and whatnot. And so I didn't really take any industrial engineering classes yet. And I remember the interview question, I think that really kind of set me apart was kind of related to what one of the other panelists mentioned, of always asking why. That was one of the questions, was if you had two teams, one was performing better than the other, why is that? And I remember the interviewer asked me that question, and I gave an answer, and he said, okay, what else? And I gave another answer, and he said, what else? And we kept on going and going and going. And it's thinking outside the box and asking that kind of why XYZ would happen, I think really set me apart from a problem solving perspective, just being able to just, you know, kind of think outside the box, like I said, and really just not taking no for an answer, and just kind of seeing that you know, that kind of process of thinking.
So it sounds like a large part of that, Jonathan, was really knowing who you were and what you were trying to do, and kind of like what some of the other panelists have been saying, being able to explain that to other people. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Sigrid, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we have a couple more. Alexis wanted to know, how did you guys decide on your major?
Question.
Well, this is Bob Mitchell. For me, it was easy ever since I can remember. I mean, I'm talking like since I was like 6 or 7 years old. I always had it in my head and my heart that I wanted to go into medicine. I wanted to be a cardiologist. And then it would delve into, well, I think I want to go work on the brain. So, but it was always in the medical field. So that was my plan design as I headed off to college. And so then I naturally studied the hard technical sciences, chemistry, biology, physics. But then when I got there, I also recognized that some of the other coursework I was taking, I really enjoyed learning some history, and I enjoyed the social sciences. So I decided to minor in those, just to kind of bring some balance to my life, and also to kind of broaden out my mindset.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well,
Sigrid, any more questions?
did any other panels?
Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, sure. I'll go into that. So I went into college with a declared major in physics. I ended up when I finished undergrad, I had a degree in physics with a concentration in optics and a minor in astronomy, and I almost had a math minor as well. Just that's the nature of getting a major in physics. I wanted to work in the sciences. I knew that since I was around 10, and then it was a question of chemistry or physics. and Physics 1 after I had physics in high school. So that's how I decided.
Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Sure. This is Jonathan. So I actually, I actually switched my major 7 times before going into my sophomore year. So talking about not knowing what you wanted to do, going right into college, that was definitely myself. It's kind of the same thing. I knew kind of one thing. I wanted to make money, and to be honest, and I knew in being in some type of technical field, and I would make a decent amount. And so I kind of pursued that route and kind of switched around here and there. But I think at the end of the day, I chose industrial engineering because a part of me was technical, and a part of me was still business savvy. So I kind of combined those two together and said, once I kind of looked at industrial engineering, I chose that major. But I think overall, again, my route has been kind of unique or different. I've leveraged more overall my soft skill sets rather than the things I kind of learned in school, and and kind of pursued my career that route and kind of used that instead.
So it's not always a straightforward path, but we can
Right.
definitely get to good places in the end as long as we keep thinking about what we want to do and who we are. Awesome,
Right.
thank you. Sigrid, do we have
Yeah,
any
we have
more?
a few more. There are a couple that are really related. Beth and Kate wanted to know, like, what is a typical work day like? How do you spend 80% of your day? And do you work during your free times? And what does your job look like as an industrial engineer, like a typical day or whatever your other respective careers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Michelle. I can take that. I think as an industrial engineer, your day is different every day. It's not. It depends on where you are in the project and what you're trying to accomplish. If you think about the typical timeline of a project, you have a problem, or you either know there's something wrong but don't know what. And so the beginning stages are data collecting or trying to figure out what it is. Then it's making a recommendation, coming up with a solution to it, and then proposing it to someone and trying to get the resources in order to get it fixed or get that portion done. So depending on where you are in the project, I'd say your day can consist of a lot of data mining. It could also be a full day of meetings, which, to be honest, nobody likes. But it's just kind of different every day depending on what you're trying to solve for that day. And like my day, typically I work 40 hours a week. If I need to work weekends or late hours, I just kind of take off a Friday or I get an extra time later. So I guess, what was the other question on that? There was a third one, I think.
They wanted to know, did you work? I think you answered it. They want to know
Okay.
80% of your day, and if you worked in your free time.
So it sounds like, Michelle, kind of things that you're saying is you do have some flexibility in your day-to-day job, and different things get pushed towards you. But the big thing is that ability to problem solve and to get things done that allows you to have some of that flexibility. Would that be correct?
Right.
Cool. Does anybody else want to tell the students about a typical day on their job?
I'll give the example. This is Bob again. I'm retired, and it's been 5 years since I was in the workforce. But toward the end of my career as a global quality manager, first let me say that 3M has a flexible work schedule. If you worked in headquarters, everybody had to be there between 10 and 2. Then from there, you could flex your day. If you were more of a morning person, you can come in the morning. If you're more of an afternoon person, you can work later into the afternoon. And because for the most part, we're salaried, so we're all working more than 40 hours. The average person is probably working closer to 50 hours. And some of us who are workaholics like myself, we were putting in well over 60 hours a week, but it's something we love to do. We did it because it was our passion. As a global quality manager, I had many people work for me in different regions of the world, but it would not be unexpected to get a phone call at 2 or 3 in the morning with a semi-crisis situation and looking for some help, or I had just volunteered to present or to speak to them at their time zone. So I had to flex my schedule in that way too, because as a global company and you're responsible for the global business, I would have days that I focus more on the US and other days would be Europe, and then there'd be that'd be the Far East. And then in my spare time, I enjoy coaching and mentoring. So I coached some teams, and I also continue to participate outside of 3M in some volunteer activities like working as a Baldrige evaluator, giving some of my time to ASQ.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sigrid, do we have any other related questions to that we would like to follow up on?
One student asked about the Lean Six Sigma, and I believe Joyce had mentioned that. So how do I start pursuing my certifications in Lean Six Sigma?
Yeah, there's various organizations that you can be certified through. Generally, I would recommend though that, initially you could get a white belt. So you do some base coursework, and understand, the principles behind Lean and Six Sigma. My experience has been though that the most effective way to learn the process of Lean Six Sigma is to actually have a real project. And there's nothing better than having a real project that somebody's paying you to do while you're getting your certification. So that was the path that I took. And so I actually did projects that my boss really, really wanted to get done for both my green belt and my black belt. And so I was paid to do it and get my certification at the same time.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
this is Bob Mitchell from ASQ, and Lean and Six Sigma are very important continuous improvement methods today. Everybody, it seems, is either using Lean or Six Sigma or the blend of both. And has been stated, especially for Six Sigma, if you want to get certified, typically you have to work on a project, and that's especially true of what they call the black belt. The certification itself requires that you have successfully completed a project and you delivered on the expectations. And usually those projects are sponsored by an employer or a company that's hiring students, maybe on an intern basis. Green belts typically are people who still work in their regular assigned area, but they also work on projects, but they don't run the project per se. And now I know within ASQ, they have a belt called yellow. There's yellow belts, white belts, brown belts, every color of the rainbow, I think. But a yellow belt, at least in ASQ, is you don't have to have a project. You still get certified as a yellow belt. And what that means is you have to go through all the training, the formal technical training. And that was designed specifically for students and maybe first year hires. So I can't profess to know a lot about how the yellow belt certification works, but if you go to asq.org, their website, I'm sure you can find out more about the yellow belt certification. And I do want to give a shout out to Joseph Juarez. He's an instructor at ASU. He works with grad students on what's called a capstone project. And what that capstone project is, it's matching up students with local companies who have these types of projects, and they need support working on the teams. So Joe's responsibility is to partner up students with local businesses, and they provide the project, and you participate on the team, and at the conclusion of the project, one of your deliverables as the ASU student is to help write the case study. And then that case study gets published. So something to look forward to. I think that's only available for grad students, but you could certainly reach out to Joe Juarez and find out more information.
So students, the capstone project is something you're going to do in your final year, your senior year, in which after you've gotten a lot of the other material out of the way, each of you will have the experience to be able to do the capstone project. And like Bob was saying, it is a big launching pad, and it's a good thing to put on your resume, show people some of the things that you have done. Speaking of gaining experience, one question that I wanted to ask for Nichelle and Jonathan is, tell us how you found your internships and a bit about the work you did in them.
Nichelle, you want to go first?
Yep, I can do that. I actually found it through the Fulton Career Center. So kudos to the host of this meeting for helping me get there. So I used to work in the Fulton Career Center, and because of that, I was actively involved in all of that. So I found Sub-Zero is who I first interned with. They make high-end refrigerators, so they were a manufacturing location. So I was there for 8 months, and my role there was about like making standardized processes. So there were multiple assembly lines that made different refrigerators. I had to figure out what the processes were and make it all standardized so that when they expanded to a different location, they all can take those instructions and be able to make the refrigerators in the same manner. So not only did I did that, but I also mapped out the layout of the assembly lines. So I optimized the manufacturing floor plan so it was more ergonomic for the operators, and it was more efficient for the operators to be able to have all their materials that they need in order to make their section of the assembly.
Thank you, Nichelle. Jonathan?
Yeah, so I found my internship going through the career fair that we have. I think it's one in the fall and one in the spring. And the way I kind of started doing that was in my freshman year, I actually went into one of the career fairs to just kind of observe and to see what it was like to go through one of those and to talk to recruiters or employers. And after kind of seeing that, my sophomore year, I got more serious about it. I dressed up. I went through, brushed up my resume, and spoke to the employers and kind of went through that round. That's kind of how I got mine sophomore year with American Express, and my second internship with Amex. That was more because I already had that relationship with the people who were hiring or for interns. When it came time to it, went up to them again during the career fair and got an interview. And honestly, that was more of a lunch at the end of the day with them because they liked what I did in my sophomore year. So I continued the internship my junior year.
Thank you. Following up on that, this is more for Joyce and Bob. What do you feel makes for an excellent intern? What would you guys be looking for if you're hiring an intern?
I'll start. So this is Joyce, and actually I have a position open for a summer intern for next summer. So there you go. And I'm looking for a data analyst. So what I'm looking for is someone who has some programming experience, and it doesn't really matter in which language. So that you've written code, that you can analyze data, so you know how to look at data, and that you've had some sort of job experience before. And those are really the things that I look for when I'm looking for an intern.
Now, for you, when you say job experience, is there a specific thing or just that they've had the ability to kind of get hired for a job and keep a job?
Exactly. It does not matter to me if you were at the corner store or if you were working in the ASU library. You know, if you did a work study program or something like that, or you know, anything like that is what I'm looking for.
Thank you. Bob, your thoughts?
Yeah, just before signing on to this Zoom webinar today, I quickly just went out to the internet and did a quick search of 3M internships, and there are 80 positions available, including some undergraduate type internships. So there are internships out there. And I guess as far as what makes an excellent intern, when I interview for summer interns, and I've had quite a few during my career, I was looking for people not only with the advertised technical skills, but during the team interviewing approach, how did they interact with people? What were their people skills? And we're looking for some sense, obviously, of confidence, but then also if that prospective candidate can give examples showing that they can work independently and in teams, and that they're responsible, that you know, that they have a sense of responsibility, they show up on time, they contribute and they meet deadlines. But most of all, it's on the people skills and the level of maturity or responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Sigrid, we got about 14 minutes left here. Are there other questions from the students that
Yeah,
they would
I
like
got I have several more questions.
All right.
Run through a couple of these. So what do any of you guys recommend your best tips to network?
Networking, that's a big one.
Networking is critically important. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it's even that much more difficult, but you can still do it. Obviously, it's not the face-to-face glad handing that we are accustomed to, but it's more virtual. But certainly, if you can stay connected, to whether it's through social media apps or email or events such as these, especially if these events have maybe an informal or formal networking session built into them. I know every month for the ASQ Phoenix section, we have a monthly program meeting where we have a guest speaker come in and talks about a topic relative to quality to our members. And the first half hour of every meeting is just left open for mostly unstructured networking. I'll hopefully just start things off with a couple of questions and the participants will take it from there. But I always am trying new things as far as to get the discussion and dialogue going. But any way you can stay connected is a great way to build your network.
Thank you. Sigrid?
All right. Do you guys recommend getting a master's degree after college or getting experience?
I'll answer that. I went direct from my undergrad to getting a master's, and I think it depends on what type of master's you're going to get. So in my case, this worked out because after my junior year, I think it was, I did an internship and I was building equipment to do science in an optics lab and fell in love with it. And I was telling my advisor, hey, I really love this job. And he's like, Joyce, you know what? You're really kind of doing engineering. So we sat down and figured out how to get me from a physics undergrad to being ready to be hired as an engineer. And part of that was getting a master's degree because most companies don't look at physics majors, bachelor's science as somebody to hire because they expect that you'll want to go get a PhD. Again, I went direct. That worked out great. And for me, I would say it works great if you're going to get a master's in an engineering, discipline. Go direct. If you want to get a master's in business, like get your MBA, I would recommend getting some experience under your belt first, because it will be much more valuable to you. And I can say that having taken some classes through the Harvard Business School myself. You get much, much more out of those classes once you've had actual on-the-job experience, rather than just going straight.
Thank you. Sigrid?
All right, let me see. As an industrial engineering, do you work on supply chain? And what are some of your job titles? And another question was, what are some of the internship titles I should be looking for?
Hi, this is Nichelle. You can work in supply chain. My first job was actually in supply chain at Honeywell. But right now at Amex, I'm in the servicing side of it. So we don't like my side of the department. We're not even like making the credit cards. It's more about the servicing side and how to improve the process that we take to service a customer. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the supply chain side. Different titles that I've seen could be like quality engineer, reliability engineer, any engineer really that has to do with improving a process. And I think those are a few of the titles. Amex, there are project analysts, business analysts. There's also data analysts. So there's many different titles, and I think it varies also depending on what industry you want to go in.
I would echo that. So I would look for something with an analyst in the title as one thing. Also look for words like quality engineering, things like that. And that will, if you're interested in the process improvement side of things, that will definitely find you into that section. Also, in my case, a lot of data scientists at Intel do optimization. So that might be a title to look for as well.
Thank you. Sigrid, we probably have time for one or two more before we go to closing statements from everybody. Do we have a couple more questions?
Okay, let me ask this one. I have one student that wants to know, did you ever work a full-time job while you were trying to get your degree at the same time? And how did you balance that if you did?
I did. This is Tara, if you all can hear me. Sorry, I'm a little bit late here, but I did just that when I was getting my master's degree at ASU, the Poly campus, and I made sure in order to balance it, I had an internship, and then after that I had a full-time role when I started school, and I made sure to kind of map my work, the work that I was doing in the workplace, to my classes, meaning trying to make it relevant, because I did pick my workplace for what I wanted to study and vice versa. So try to make sure if you can that's a match, and then the work and the work that you're doing for homework as well as the workplace should be much smoother and more balanced, because you really are contributing to day-to-day operations and with your new classwork. A lot of these folks in the workplace might not be up to speed on these relevant ASU courses. And so you're really contributing there, but then at the same time, you're also paying your bills. And in the classes at ASU, you can actually speak up and say, hey, at USAA or at Amex or Intel, this is actually what I'm working on, and hopefully even graduate faster because it's, you're not having as many hurdles. So I highly recommend it if you can be thoughtful about what classes you pick and in your degree and match it to the workplace.
Thank you, Tara. Anybody else want to jump in on that question?
Yeah, this is Michelle. I also did my master's while working full-time at Honeywell. I was in the 4+1 program, so when I was doing the +1 part, I was working full-time. Honestly, what I studied did not relate to what I was working on, so it was a little more difficult, and whether I recommend it or not kind of depends on who you are as a person and how you work. For me, it was starting work at 7 a.m., getting off at 3, and then it was school until bedtime basically, and then the day repeats. So it kind of depends on what you're doing and where you are. I was also lucky enough that majority of the classes were online, and I didn't have to attend it live, so I would just review the modules or the videos later. And then, you know, if you had to be somewhere in person, I always worked with my employer to let them know, like, hey, I have finals this week. I'm going to take the week off. I just use like my vacation days. But that would, I mean, it's up to you and what you guys think in order when you decide if you want to go that route or not.
Thank you, Michelle. We got about 4 minutes left here. I would like everybody to have a chance to, if you have a parting word of wisdom for our students listening today, what would it be? If we start on the left-hand side with Bob again and then go across the board, that would work fine. Thank you.
Oh, I guess I'll take a pass at this moment.
All right, Bob. Joyce, do we got something?
Yeah, so I would say don't feel that you have to have it all figured out right now. I did, and that was kind of a disservice to myself. And take time to explore things and try out new things and see what works best for you and what is the best fit. If I had figured out things that I learned as a junior by the time I was a freshman, maybe I would have been an engineering major instead of a physics major. It worked out in the end, but you know, there's always that potential for different paths. So, you know, feel empowered to make a change if what you're doing right now isn't working for you. I think that would be my key takeaway.
Thank you. Michelle, do we have any parting words that you would like to share with the students?
Yeah, so I know this panel, like for the students, it might be homework, but you know, joining things like this definitely helps. If you're still trying to figure things out, you get to hear from people that are experienced. I'm learning a lot from the other panelists. So, you know, just keep at it, join anything you can, just keep exploring, like Joyce said.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Tara, we barely knew you, but we got a couple minutes left here. What kind of parting words of wisdom that we'd like to give our students here?
Sure, I would have to say volunteer. Anything that you're remotely interested in, it's all about the networking. I think in the next year or two, but just overall, besides the pandemic, my experience volunteering has led to jobs, has led to friendships, has led to references, you name it. It's just led to more happiness. So that's my advice.
Thank you very much. Is there any type of volunteering experience that you found that was really helpful for you, or is just volunteering in general?
Oh gosh, I've been doing it forever, and I won't take too much time on this, but I would have to say, well, still recently I'm volunteering. It never ends if you're an ASU grad, if you're passionate. I'm mentoring a student down in Tampa. She's a current ASU student, online student, and she and I have a lot in common. She just found me on the ASU online site. As it turns out, we have tons of hobbies in common. The list goes on and on and on, and we have the most pleasant calls. So you never know, even during the pandemic, there's ways to do the virtual volunteering because it keeps you sharp, keeps you talking to people, and just makes the day better. So that's my most recent experience that I recommend, getting on that ASU mentoring site.
Thank you. Jonathan? Any last
Yeah.
parting words here in the last couple seconds?
Sure. So I would say, so something that I kind of taken to heart from one of my mentors over the year is don't be afraid to try and fail. I think just overall that has really helped me, take the calculated risks in life in general and in school and in my job that has gotten to me where I am today. And I think overall, if if you're not afraid to just continue to try, get back up, and even if you do fail, just get back up again. It does go a long way.
Thank you, Jonathan. With that, I would like to say on behalf of Fulton School of Engineering, thank you all for joining us today. We know your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you spending time with us. Panelists, you are welcome to mute yourself and stay on and listen to the next panel. Just please don't, if you leave meeting, don't leave meeting, end meeting for all. We need to keep this going for the next session. Students, we're going to take a couple minutes break, and then we're going to be back to start panel number 2 in a couple minutes. Thank you. Students, get up, do what you need to do. We'll start the new panel in a couple minutes. All right, so welcome back to part 2 on our career exploration night panel for data process optimization and management. We have a new set of panelists with us. We would like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to be with us tonight. This session is going to go from 5:30 to 6:30, and then that will be the conclusion of our night. Okay. Once again, students, we are going to start with some prepared questions directed to some or all of the panelists. Panelists, I will attempt to use your name if it's going directly at you. I will also go starting left to right on more generalized questions as soon as the person who is done speaking is done. If you're to the right of them, you want to go and start, go ahead and do that. All right. Students, once again, for anybody new to this session, your attendance is being recorded based on registration information and length of the meeting. This is going to be given to your ASU 101 professors. So please follow their instructions on what they need you to do for this. All right? If you're also new again to this panel, student-wise, there is a Q&A box at the bottom, the black Zoom bar, for you guys to ask career-related questions of the panelists. We love to hear from you guys. The more questions you guys ask, the more you're going to get out of this. So please feel free to ask questions. We're going to start with 2 or 3 prepared questions, and then we're going to open it up to student questions. So you can come up with questions on your own, things from the workbook. I highly encourage you all to listen to some of the answers that the panelists are giving and maybe come up with a couple follow-ups on that as well to help them dig deeper into it. All right. Panelists, the first question we're just going to start with this evening is to learn a little bit, to help the students learn a little bit about you. So if you all can give me your 1 to 2 minute, professional pitch about yourself, and please include how your formal education is used in your current or previous roles. If we can, please start with Rachel and then move to the right. Rachel?
Yeah, great. Hi, so I'm a business owner and principal consultant of my company, Best Practice Quality. Worked in the world of quality for many years. Started as a quality control technician after completing my 2-year associate's degree. That kind of put me into that was my first job getting out of that degree. So that kind of put me into quality for the rest of my life. Started in automotive industry and moved in automotive industry, I realized as a technician that I really needed more than a 2-year degree. So after 1 year's break, I started going back to school as a part-time for my bachelor's degree. And, one of the things is I didn't start actually going to college until I was 23. So I worked in industry in a factory prior to that. So when I was in the factory, I saw I couldn't picture myself working in the factory running machines at my age that I'm currently at. And I saw the guys coming out from engineering doing certain things, like I ran an NC machine and they were coming out and they were the ones that programmed the NC machine. The company purchased a big 40 turret machine that from a Japanese company, Mitsubishi, I think. And so these Japanese guys came out and they set up this machine, and all of this inspired me to quit my job and go to college. So, so I was totally non-traditional in all of my college experience. And as I worked, I continued to be a part-time student. So I jumped from automotive to aerospace, and aerospace into consumer goods industry, mostly children's products, and which also had some medical device within that group, children's product and childcare. And so that was kind of my experience, was both side-by-side parallel working and going to school. After I got my bachelor's, I worked on my MBA. So it was a long process, about 20 years probably, being a student alongside of working. But certainly, for me, it was a great benefit because I was able to apply my learning as I was working. And so everything was relevant. And so from my experience, it was really great, but it slowed my career path down. So that's the negative to it. But anyways, that's my pitch. I can offer more later on, but that's
Thank you, Rachel. Seems like a very interesting road you've taken. Paulette?
Yes. Hello, my name is Paulette. My journey started as a biomedical engineer, but then I was able to complete the ASU program within 3 years, and my scholarship was for 4 years. So junior year, I explored all the other engineers as a possible double major. And after long searching, I found industrial engineering, and I just fell in love with it from the get-go. I have a lot of experience. The industrial program at ASU has a great curriculum where they pair you up with companies outside, and you can take those projects that you are working in the classroom and work on and apply it to real life situations. So I worked with Gore, and then I also have some internship experience in both the medical and semiconductor area. So, and I'm currently doing my full-time job at NXP Semiconductors as an industrial engineer.
Thank you. Janine?
Hi there, I'm Janine Prokop. I started my engineering degree in aeronautical engineering, but it wasn't in my heart. I had a suite mate who was an industrial engineer, and I really liked what she had to say about it, kind of being a mix of business and engineering together, and thought that's what I want to be when I grow up. So I pursued my industrial engineering degree. I worked right after school at the Los Alamos National Labs, and when you work there, you can only stay there for a year unless you're pursuing an advanced degree. So I applied to ASU, joined ASU as part of the Corporate Leaders Program, where I was sponsored by Motorola Semiconductor at the time, and they sponsored me in an internship and a fellowship where I could work full-time during the summers, part-time during the school year, and worked full-time at Motorola while I went to school. Throughout my career, I've used industrial engineering with factory floor modeling and logistics modeling. I've brought up wafer fabs, their computer integrated manufacturing systems, helped get those softwares deployed on the floors, as well as feedback to the development teams. I've been able to lead projects and drive change throughout Motorola, then Freescale, and now NXP, and worked with managing a team focused on data analytics as well too. My current role, I get to work as an operations manager, driving execution for our team, making sure that we're reporting on our projects, we're reporting on key performance metrics, we're crafting a message for our team and sharing it internally and externally, and we're building the identity and rhythm of the team and making sure people know who we are and what we do. So that's my career.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll try to get us back on track. I was born in Arizona native. Had the very tough choice of U of A or ASU, but I think at the end I made the right decision. Graduated 2005. Started working right away for General Dynamics in Scottsdale, which some of you may know. Did that for a while and then moved over to Lockheed Martin. So I spent a big part of my early career working in the defense industry, building some cool engineering projects. But then I transitioned over to the private sector and started working for American Express 6 years ago. And I've started focusing more on rapid agile stuff, customer focused, big picture machine learning, that type of stuff. But I'll always have that foundation in engineering that we got at ASU, and that's carried me along. But I get to work on some pretty cool projects now, and just really excited to be here and answer any questions you guys have. So,
thank you, Rick. Becca?
Hey guys, my name's Becca, and I'm currently an industrial engineer at W.L. Gore and Associates up in Flagstaff, Arizona. I work for our medical products division. I did the 4+1 program in IE at ASU, as well as the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certificate. When I was in college, I interned at GE, L3, and a renewable energy company. So that was really cool. But for full-time, I worked for W.L. Gore, and my commitment consists of working with engineering, manufacturing, and leadership as part of our septal occluders product team. So it's a really cool product that helps fix some defects in the heart. So as part of my role on that team, I do data analysis to create and maintain metrics, and then those outputs go into capacity models to help determine throughput of our line. That helps us make decisions on what sort of machines to purchase and how many people to staff. And then I take all that information and I use that to help design manufacturing line layouts. I also do a lot of value stream mapping. And one of my favorite things to do is to teach lean courses and focus on the application of those concepts with my product team and other teams that I come across. So I use my formal education when I do teach some of those lean concepts and apply them. And I also use some of the courses in statistics to help do data analysis.
Thank you, Becca. And Adriana?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana. I'm a current student. I'm a junior in engineering management. I'm also getting a minor in sustainability, and I have one internship of experience from the summer. I've been involved in a few student organizations, such as the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and I've also done EPICS, and I'm part of Fulton Ambassadors. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have related to that.
All right. Thank you, panelists. Michelle, did we have any related questions based on what the panelists have said so far?
Not so much related. They're just asking kind of what do you wish you knew when you were an undergrad that you know now that maybe you can elaborate on, so it's not much so much a career, but kind of that advice.
Especially you the first four panelists. It sounds like you guys have had a varied track throughout your career. What are some things that you know now? Because you guys moved around a lot and tried a lot of different things. What are some things you guys know now that you wish you would have knew when you were an incoming freshman earlier in your college career? Rachel?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I think one of the things is you just don't know what you don't know. So as you go on in your career path, you're learning all sorts of things. I was able to, through my career path, travel to over, I think 25 different countries. And I learned so much, my world expanded. And as my world expanded, there were things I said, well, geez, if I had known a little bit more about this, I might have gone down the path of aeronautical engineering, when I was working in aerospace. So the best thing you can do when you're in college and you're just starting out is to diversify your experience, all right? Because by diversifying your experience, you just keep putting more and more knowledge into what your options are. and where you, what things inspire you and where you might want to go. And it can change too, and that's okay. But the point is that the key is, if you don't know what you don't know, then how, that's the problem. And so the only way to expand that is through diversification of experience, whether it's multiple, internships, volunteering efforts, increasing your network in any way that you can, taking diversity in your class choices. Expansion of your knowledge is going to help you to, I think, go down your path.
Thank you, Rachel. Would any of the other panelists like to jump in on that question? What's one thing that you know now that you kind of wish you would have known when you were a student starting off?
I would like to add on to Rachel real quickly. It's exactly what she said. It's, you don't know what you like, so let's figure out what you don't like now, so you can have a better understanding of what you want to do in the future.
Awesome. Janine, Rick, Becca, Adriana, any thoughts on that you guys would like to share?
Sure. I think it's in the same theme. I think there's so much opportunity and the world is changing so fast. So you get kind of a narrow mind of what you believe certain degrees or certain jobs or what's available, but it's amazing how much is actually out there. So really having an open mind, exploring things, engaging your curiosity, all that is super valuable while you're in school, to explore and experience different things before you may get committed into a career choice.
Rick, Becca, Adriana?
Yeah, I'd like to add, just following up on that, ask all the questions. I can't remember who said this, but you don't know what you don't know. And you might think that you already know what you, like, enough of a subject, but you might find out that there's way many more things that you're interested in, you just haven't found out yet. So ask all the questions would be my my advice.
And Adriana, if you don't mind, there was a question directed to you. So I figured while we were kind of on this topic, question was asked, what kind of projects have you done in EPICS?
Yeah. So the project that I've done in EPICS, I've done EPICS for 2 semesters, and it's something that I highly encourage first semester students to get in. The projects the first project was on finding a solution to increase the board game checkouts at Noble Library, which nobody knows about the board game collection, even at Noble Library. So it was coming up with a solution for that. And then the second project that I was in was more like a learning project rather than an actual applied solution. And it was coming up with like an implementation plan to develop a solar system in the New Mexico State University campus. And it was for a competition that was sort of implemented through EPICS. So those were very different projects, but I really encourage you to get into EPICS because it helps you get experience when you don't have any. You know how sometimes you're required to have experience to get more experience? EPICS is a really good way to avoid that. And in my experience from the interviews that I've had, I mostly talk about my EPICS projects. Does that answer the question?
No, it sounded good to me. One thing really quick, we heard this in the last panel too, is try out new things, put yourself out there. That can be a very scary prospect though. What kind of advice would you give students on putting themselves out there and kind of testing things out, making themselves uncomfortable? How would you go about that, starting that off? Because that can be a very scary process for people who haven't done that before. Anybody
I'll
want to
jump
jump in?
Yeah, I will. Rachel.
Okay.
So
Rachel.
I had 3 experiences where that all put myself out there and were scary. And they weren't necessarily in the college experience itself because, again, I was a non-traditional student. But, the first experience was changing jobs. So I changed jobs and I stepped down. So I was I had worked my way up to management and I changed to a different company and I had to step down to do that. And that was a scary thing to do because I was going in a good path, but it was a really great company and I just felt like I needed to do it. And so I took this job and I went back to being like a test technician, but I went into aerospace. And for the first 3 months of that job, I literally had tears in my eyes at night driving home because it was it was a different type of challenge, but I was losing my management skills, you know? And I felt like maybe I made the wrong decision, and it was not the wrong decision at all. It just, I had to be patient. And it opened up so many different opportunities for me. And then in that job, when I was in that company, the other experience that I had, which was also scary, was they posted a temporary position for a senior quality engineer / project manager to put in an ISO 9000 quality system over in their Ireland subsidiary. And so it was a temporary position. And that was scary. And a lot of people thought I was crazy to even put in for it, but I put in for it. And I went and did this over in Ireland. And it just changed my world. You know, to work outside of the country was just an amazing thing. And it opened up even more opportunities for me later on. I mean, I can't even imagine all the things that it did for me. But it was scary to do it, to be able to leave what you're familiar with and go to a different place and out of the country if you'd never traveled there. And then the third was I got a telephone call and changed and went all the way across the country when I was living on the East Coast. But there was an opportunity for a job, and I went to the West Coast and picked up my family and moved. So, you know, all of those, for some people, those can be very, very challenging and scary things to do. But you have to reach down inside yourself and challenge yourself. You have to say that you can do this and believe in yourself, and then make it happen.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. This is for all panelists again. We're going to go left to right again. The name of the panel is Data Process Optimization and Management. It seems like every company needs employees that bring together people, processes, data, and machines, and determine how to make things better all around. How have you all seen that within your field, and do you see a hiring trend in around that? Rachel, can you start off?
I'm just gonna say that it's extremely important. Everything is you just need data. But I've talked and I'm gonna pass from that point.
All right, what?
I would say that with industrial engineering, because it's so versatile, you can apply it in any market. It's just, it comes down to being able to analyze and observe a problem and being able to collect data and then present that data and prove and suggest a recommendation. That's going to be very useful and applicable. And even after taking these industrial courses, I go sometimes to a fast food place and I just think to myself, this setup could have been differently. So it's not going to go anywhere. And like I said, can be applied, and it's a very useful skill to have.
Thank you. Janine?
All right, I think that statement's very true. So when I look at it, our world today and into the future is going to be more and more connected. So if you think about it, the amount of data that you personally generate and that gets analyzed is enormous. And think of your smart connected devices and your social media applications alone, right? Tons of data that's getting analyzed. Now you add to that automobiles, robots or machines that are in factory, hospital equipment, utilities, anything, all those things are generating data. So we are you have to develop faster, smarter, more secure technology. And that's kind of what NXP is doing. And those devices have to sense what's going on, think about it, and then act. So the hiring trend I see is that we need more individuals that are able to build the models to help train those machines that are learning to process the data. We need individuals that can understand and build effective visualizations of the data to support decision making. And we need individuals that have good analytical minds to make good decisions based on all that information, especially where artificial intelligence isn't going to be effective. We also need to consider and be thinking about how do we comprehend that data and how do we respond to it all with the ethics of artificial intelligence, right? There's going to be a lot of ethical questions that come out about artificial intelligence. We need sharp minds to consider that and know how to respond appropriately.
Thank you. Rick, your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, in this day and age, data is going to be at the center of everything we do. You know, whoever owns the data and has that holistic view of things is really going to be able to drive the industry forward. And one thing to watch out for is, you know, as these companies scramble to acquire as much data as they can, what we're seeing is overload, right? We're seeing so much data come in that we have a hard time making sense of it. So what we look for is for people that can weed through and find the most important things that we should be paying attention to, because it can get daunting, and it can actually be a negative, right? To have that much information floating around your business and not know what to do with it. So yeah, I agree with the panelists before. Data is absolutely going to be the future. It's going to be the currency that we all strive to acquire as much of, and just be careful about how you use it and how you view it, because I think that's going to be the key to separating all of these companies once data becomes kind of, you know, par for the course. So
thank you,
that's my
Rick.
advice. Yeah.
Becca, how do you see this coming together in your company and from what you've done in the field so far?
So it's definitely true. Like every company needs people that bring people and data and machines together, because process improvement is just such a valuable skill set that can be applied to a lot of different industries, companies, and jobs. And so being able to see how all those things interact together and how they play off together is really important. So I work in manufacturing, and a lot of our manufacturing is very manual and labor intensive. So I actually struggle a lot to get data to begin with. So it's like coming up with how to create that data. Sometimes I'm not able to get data right off the bat. So I have to go in, do a lot of informational interviewing with operators, find data where I can find it, and then try to build a picture of how things play together. So I have the opposite problem where I'm not scrambling to sort through a bunch of data, I'm scrambling to even find it to begin with. But having both of those skill sets of being able to figure out like what's important or what do I need to collect, what does this tell me? How does this move a project forward? What does all of this mean? That's a really valuable skill set, and that's something you learn. You can learn through school and like a program like industrial engineering.
Thank you, Becca. Adriana, you've been probably going through a lot of interviews in the last couple of years here. How do you see this kind of coming about while you've been interviewing?
I don't have much experience yet working with data like itself, but you're right. I've had a lot of interviews for internships and whatnot, and all I can say is I just have to agree with all of the other panelists. Also, through recruiting events for internships, I've realized that data is more applicable than I thought it was, and to any type of industry, from banking to manufacturing, literally any industry that you can think of. And it's a good thing for industrial engineers and, in my experience, engineering manager, to get these skill sets. Because, for example, for my engineering management folks, you're going to have to choose a focus area in your fourth semester, and the business analytics one can give you skills that can be applied for that. So I recommend it. That's my focus area. If you have any questions about that, feel free to jump in.
Thank you. All right. Next question is once again for the entire panel. Please tell us one piece of career advice or an observation you've had that you would like to share with our students. These students are all starting off, they're in their first semester at ASU. They're brand new to all this. What's one piece of career advice you would give to somebody right at the beginning of this process? Rachel? Rachel, you still there? All right.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute for a minute.
That's okay.
Internships. Internships are, I think, the most important thing. As a hiring manager, when I'm hiring somebody out of college, I'm going to look at their internships probably, and then second would be their project work. So the relevance of having multiple internships, if you can get an internship between your freshman and sophomore year, do it. It's definitely going to benefit you.
Thank you.
Rachel, this actually kind of relates to one of the questions we had from one of the students that kind of relates with what you stated, asking if internships are more important than having previous job experience when being hired for an engineering job.
It depends on the relevance.
Okay.
Depends on the relevance. So you don't always get lucky enough or fortunate enough to get an internship that's as completely relevant. Sometimes you take an internship, even if it's not as relevant or as aligned to potentially the job that you're applying for when you go to graduate. But your previous experience might be more relevant. So it's really all about the relevancy of whatever that experience is, whether it's previous or whether it's internship.
I'm guessing it also, you learn different skill set and tools, even if that particular job or internship doesn't match up perfectly with your degree, you still learn other tools
Definitely.
to take on with the next one.
Definitely. If it's a choice between an internship or a job to make some money, not to knock any job, but just a grunt job of, just working to make money, whether it's waitressing, whether it's landscaping or whatever, an internship is going to be much better, because you will have relevancy, even if it's not directly relevant, just because you're learning communications tools, you're learning, tools on your computer as to different things. So any general kind of transferable skills will come off of internships as well.
And that's a good moment to put in a plug for the Career Center, because they can help you guys all learn how to take those different skill sets that you may get from a job that you don't think is very relatable to what you're doing, but put those on a resume and show an employer that you have time management or something like that. Paulette, what's one piece of advice you'd share with these guys?
Yes, I would say network, network, network. Because the way that I got my internships was just through networking, and it could be going to like in my case, a SHIP meeting or a SWE meeting, going to those social meetings as well, just getting to know people, getting to know students that are taking similar classes as you, or even outside of the engineering arena. Sometimes they bring in panelists like us who expose us and talk to the students about their experience and how they got to be where they are right now. I got my internship experience just through a social event, just talking about my journey and what I've been struggling with. And now I was talking about, hey, I need an internship and I've been struggling to find one. And it just so happened that the person I talked to, their company was had one slot of an internship available. And so he just said, well, why not come for an interview? And we can set this up. And I went to an interview and I got the internship. So I think networking is very crucial, not only being able to communicate with other students, like I said, with similar classes that you're taking, being study buddies, but also getting to know the opportunities that are outside. What's the next level of after graduating? What does the adult life look like?
Thank you. Janine?
I would say take the opportunity while you're in school to learn, engage, and practice skills that go beyond your technical degree. So for instance, self-awareness. Really start to understand how your actions, your words, your mannerisms are perceived. So for instance, how do you look on a camera when you're in a virtual meeting? What does your body language say? How about asking questions to presenters? What does that say about you, that you're engaged? Your work products, what is the quality? What's the timeliness of them? Are you a good collaborator on teams? Get really comfortable with seeking and receiving feedback. That's the key to self-awareness, is asking for feedback and accepting the feedback. Also work on things like critical thinking, curiosity, creativity. In your classes, you have plenty of opportunity. Don't just answer the question, really think critically about it. Engage the curiosity and go a step farther, and then find creative solutions. All of those skills take a lot of practice, and being in a college environment is a great place to practice those. And then finally, leadership. Step up in your school clubs, in any community service, anywhere you are, step up to leadership. Learn it, practice it, refine it. When you build those softer skills as part of your educational experience, they will come naturally when you're in your career. And those are the types of skills that when we're in the job fairs and we're looking at individuals, we're not just looking at those top GPAs, but we're also looking at how engaging your communication skills are, how we think you will be as a team member on our teams. So use your time at ASU to develop those soft skills.
Thank you. Rick, what do you got for us?
Yeah, no, I love that, Janine. It's absolutely right. You know, my advice would be, you know, don't focus so much on like the things you think you know, like the facts, the figures, the statistics, the classes you took, the technical information. Because when I look to hire somebody, I'm not impressed necessarily by the class you took and the thing you learned. What I'm most impressed about is that you can learn, right? So if you think about yourself as a student, like every 15 weeks, you're enrolling in a whole new set of classes, you're learning a whole new set of things. Like that fluidity and that flexibility is something that you don't find in the industry, because what happens in industry is you get set in a certain spot, you get entrenched, right? So it's a breath of fresh air when somebody comes in who goes, hey, I learned something new every 15 weeks. Like, what do you got? Like, I'll roll with it, right? That's your biggest asset when you're coming into a company. Focus on that, play to that strength. I absolutely agree with get out of your comfort zone and do an internship, but it doesn't necessarily need to be technical. My internship was a painting company. I ran a painting company for the summer, and it taught me how to hire people. It taught me how, you know, or when I needed to let somebody go. It taught me leadership skills. It taught me all the things that I wasn't going to get in, all my engineering courses, right? So think about that. Play to those strengths. Don't be afraid to try new things. I mean, you guys should not be afraid of anything, because of the amount of change you go through. You should be willing to do anything and try anything. So just know where you're coming from, know what we're looking for, and play to those things. That's my biggest advice. So.
Great points. Becca?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. So whether that's from a professor during office hours, if you're just not understanding a concept for a class, so you go to the tutoring center, or you work in a study group with classmates, or even when you start working and you don't know how something works, like asking a coworker, not being afraid to ask for help it's a really valuable thing to do. You're not going to know everything. Nobody knows everything. And that's okay. People generally want to help others, and you're going to find help when you need it.
Thank you, Becca. Adriana, what would you share with these guys that helped get you from freshman to where you are now?
Yeah, I guess what I want to touch on is that it's more like college advice more than career. So really, I want to encourage you to not just pass your classes, really learn with the material, because learn to love learning, if that makes sense. You never know when you're gonna need that knowledge, and you may think, oh, I'm not gonna be needing this later, I'm not gonna be doing this forever. You never know. Trust me, from experience, I can tell you that you never know. Also, the other panelists already said this, but be comfortable being uncomfortable. This is every time, like this phrase, I want to tattoo it on my skin. And then another thing is, when I was a freshman, I kind of was, I thought that everyone had everything figured out, that every student knew where they wanted to go, what they wanted to be doing. And even though some students may be that way, almost no one knows what they're doing at this point. So really don't be intimidated by asking questions and by just not knowing what you want to do yet. It's okay to not have it figured out right now. You will get to a point where you kind of have a better idea of what you want to do. So don't let that mortify you right now, because I know that for me, it really did when I was a freshman.
Thank you. Michelle, do we have any student questions at this point?
Nothing else has popped up at the moment.
Okay. Just a reminder, students, the more you guys ask, the more you're going to get out of this. Like the panelists are saying, you got to find experiences to kind of make yourself uncomfortable, and something like this where you can push a question into a question box and get it answered is a good practice on that.
Actually, we did have a question just pop up, if
All right.
that's okay. So it says, are there anything or practices that you'd recommend us to do to further develop those soft skills that you guys are talking about?
I can take that one, or start off with that one.
Yeah, anybody want to jump in?
Yep. This is Rachel. So a couple of ones, soft skills. One is Toastmasters. It's a good place to improve your communication skills. And I think they have student chapters of Toastmasters, but if not, there's certainly Toastmasters chapters in and around the Phoenix, Tempe area. So that would be one that I would recommend is Toastmasters. The other soft skills is just any volunteer on your activities, any activities that you can get into where you can grab a leadership position, because that'll also improve your soft skills. So whether it's secretary, treasurer, VP, president, if you can grab those positions on a committee of any sort, that's going to help your soft skills.
Thank you. So like leadership, public speaking, some of those items. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I believe you guys have class projects and teams you do. I would practice those. I would practice collaboration, using some of the skills of seeking feedback, right? Self-awareness, you know, as you complete out projects, do some lessons learned, do some self-awareness and ask about, hey, how did it go? How would we do this different? And really be comfortable asking for that feedback and running with it, right? Making the changes you need to make. If you guys are in your classes and you're doing the online classes, I don't know how they run for you, but if they are live, consider like your body language. Just always be mindful and aware of what you're doing in the different classes or things that you're involved in. Again, I'm not sure how your classes run with the whole virtual world these days. But those would be some examples. And like Rachel mentioned, community service, right? If there's a community service event, you know, volunteer to be a team member, volunteer to be a leader, volunteer to own a piece of it, whatever you're comfortable with and whatever helps you grow and develop from where you're starting from. And then a big one would be to practice your story, right? So when you're going to go into career fairs, you're going to have to share your story. Start on your own, just writing out your story. What's my 5-minute speech or my 2-minute speech? Who am I? Why am I in this? And what's my desire in my career? Just work on those kind of things when you have the time. So when you walk into an event, even an elevator, and you meet somebody on an elevator, you have a story to tell them that can engage with them. And then always practice engaging the person, not a monologue, but really talking to the people anywhere you go, right? And I know, again, it's a little harder with some of the social isolation practices, but if you're out to eat or if you're in a religious gathering or a community service event, just really practice speaking to people and talking to people and getting to know people.
Thank you. One more person on this? Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I'll throw something in quick. Yeah, I would say anything that has you interfacing with other people. I think as engineers, it's easy for us to throw the headphones on and just start, you know, banging away on our projects and focusing on getting in deep on some technical topic. But I can tell you what makes people successful is their ability to articulate what they know and to convince others of what they know and to influence people. And if you can practice those skills, like it doesn't matter how smart you are, if you can't articulate those thoughts, it's just lost calories, right? It's not going to come to fruition. So, I mean, do something as simple as going to an elementary school and teaching science or technology to you know, some underrepresented group. You know, try to teach physics to your grandparents. Like whatever it is that gets you working on those skills of communication, of influence, negotiation, like those things, that's what's going to kind of separate you once you get your foot in the door.
Awesome. Thank you. Michelle, do we have any other questions from the students?
We do have another one, and I think this is going to be fairly universal, obviously, with students and kind of what they're dealing with and finding their time management and dealing with their stresses. You know, when you guys whether you were doing your own college time frame or kind of how you work with, obviously, the stresses with your work, is there anything particular that you found that would work for you to help kind of calm the stress and reorganize kind of the crazy that can potentially happen on a day-to-day?
So this time, we can start on the right with Adriana and go towards the left. Adriana, what kind of stress management tips do you have for our friends?
So most of my stress source has been schoolwork, since I haven't had really that many experiences in the workforce. But for school, something that really helps me is keeping in mind that school is a part of your life. It's not healthy for school to take over your life completely. I know it's like one of the most important things in your life right now, but it's just a part of it. And I think it's important to remember yourself to have hobbies. And I know that with time management and engineering, it can be a little hard to, or I guess it can be easy to forget about those, but just keep them in mind and have like a safe go-to that you know it's gonna calm you down. For example, for me, is playing the piano.
Becca, do you have suggestions for the students on kind of managing stress, either in the work world or at school?
So in the work world, and I think this applies to school as well, like when I get stressed out at work and I just need a break, GORE is really big on interpersonal relationships and building what we call a lattice, which is like a network. So when I get really stressed out, I just go talk to my coworkers or my leader, or I go on the floor and talk to the operators, not about anything, but just to talk. And it just like really helps like kind of reset and reframe things. And I think that's applicable to like when you're in school, like trying to like socialize or go and talk to people, because like you're not alone when you get stressed out. Other people are stressed out too. Other people just want to talk and connect. And I think it's important to remember that and to practice that.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, I think definitely get away, definitely have hobbies, that sort of stuff. I'd say some tips for maybe on the job is be honest with your leader about your boundaries. Like don't agree to everything. Don't try to take on everything. I mean, the nasty truth about it is like you don't really get credit for all the things you sign up for. You get credit for all the things you actually complete. Meaning, if you say you're going to do 10 things and you do 9 of them, you didn't do the 10th thing, right? Instead of saying I could do 5 and 5 I feel comfortable with. So don't take on too much. That leads to a lot of unnecessary stress. Just have that conversation with your team, with your leader about what you're comfortable, what you feel like you're ready for, and then gently grow into more and more responsibility. I think that's a big key for relieving unnecessary stress at work. And then the other stuff, get away, take your time off, travel, have your hobbies and things like that too, is what I'd say.
Thank you, Rick. Janine?
I have 2 things I generally do. The first one I call like the rule of 7, right? So every 7 hours I have to disengage and just do something different. Walk, run, swim, whatever it is, just do something different. And then every 7 days you have to take a break, right? So you take a weekend off, right? Make sure you disengage. Every 7 months, again, a longer kind of break, a longer tree. Every 7 years, maybe more like an extra long vacation or something. But especially in this virtual world where we're working from home, you can work almost 24 hours if you're not really careful, and that's going to add a lot of stress. So just make sure you take the time to disengage and plan that in. Make it a habit to take time off. The other thing is always keeping in my mind when you're in a situation that's stressful, the equation S plus R equals O. Situation plus your response equals the outcome. So if my situation's very stressful, I can tailor my response to get the right outcome that I want. So that'll happen in both stressful or unstressful situations. But when it really starts to get stressful, really consider what is my response and how am I going to do this, and take some breaths and be really mindful and calculated in how you're going to respond.
Thank you. Paulette?
Yes, kind of along what Janine said, I kind of do a broader to narrow approach. First, I understand what is it that I'm trying to, what are the big tasks that I'm trying to complete, and then I break it down to smaller tasks. Along with, I like to do weekly versus daily to-dos, just because the daily to-dos gives me more of a quick satisfaction. Hey, I did this, I completed this, but then overall with the week, it only probably took down 1 or 2 bullet points. But if I break it down to the daily, it gives me more of a clear perspective and mindset. And what the other panelists also said, make sure to take care of yourself, make sure that you're eating good meals and going on for walks, and just distracting yourself, because it's not very healthy to be looking at a computer or doing all-nighters consistently.
And Rachel?
Yeah, so time management is really critical, I think, to managing stress. And there's two types of people. I'm one that tends to be more of a more stressful person because I tend to be just in time in how I work. So some people get something and they go at it immediately, and some people get something and put it to the side and do it right before it's due. And I'm that type of person, and that's a higher stress when you do that. And that's just who I am. So time management is critical regardless of which way you go with it. So if you want to manage your stress, you need to manage your time. Everybody said great inputs into all of it. And over the years, I've just found different things, but definitely have what I would call a de-stress toolbox, whatever that might be. And, you know, keep looking at that de-stress toolbox and adding things to it so that it's readily available when you need it.
Just about all of the students that we've been working with in kind of the ASU 101 kind of starter classes, I would say 80% of them had said that their biggest issue is time management. And I guess the next question would be, were there ideas or examples of the tools that you can utilize for that? Because a lot of them might not know how to balance this. It's a different world than what they did in high school or you know, all of this and all the classes. All right. So are there any tools specifically that you guys have used that you found that was helpful, or how you organized yourself to actually start implementing the time management side of things?
This is
I'm gonna go
Becca.
with Paulette's answer, right? And say, if you can break things down and you understand what your end result is and you can break it down and lay it out, that has always helped me with time management. I put little cues in my calendar, kind of like a list, but electronic, where I know, hey, I got to do these things these days. There is taking time in the morning to think and plan your day before just jumping into your day is very helpful. Lay it out first thing in the morning. That's another good tip, because if you process through it. And then the other thing is build as much automation into your day. So build as many habits as you can and schedules, like this is what I do when I eat, this is what I do there. And then you'll have the freedom to adjust around those things as well too.
Thank you. Becca, you sound like you had something you're going to chime in on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do what Paulette does, where you break it down into weekly and daily tasks. So that's actually like really helpful in organizing yourself. And then at the end of the day, when I was a student, I would figure out like, okay, what do I need for tomorrow? And then like write myself a list for the next day on like, I have to finish like this one assignment. I know I have 4 projects, but this one assignment is due first. So I'm going to work on that. And so figuring out kind of that prioritization for yourself as well really helps with time management.
Thank you. So we got about 4 minutes left. Michelle, are there any other student questions that we have?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. So with the last 4 minutes here, internships has come up a lot. Paulette, Becca, Adriana, if you guys could just share with the students really quickly, how did you guys find your internships? What were some tips around finding internships that you have? And then maybe Rick, Janine, Rachel, if you guys have any perspective from the hiring side, what advice you might give them.
Yes. So
you can go.
Sorry, thank you. My first internship, like I mentioned, it was just through a social event through the SHIP organization, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. It was very spontaneous, but I'm still very grateful for it. The second internship consisted of me going to the career fair. It was a mini career fair that took place in the spring. And I did do my research beforehand and applied for the company beforehand. And when I came up to their booth, I said, hey, I'm just requesting where my status is with my internship application, because I did apply for it 2 weeks ago. And then they quickly talked and they scheduled an interview. Since there's so many applicants that do apply, it can sometimes just get lost in the files. So just being proactive and showing your face and going to the booths, just show a lot of proactive and being determined to act, that you're very serious about this internship. And third, my full-time offer, actually, I got it through the SHIP conference. I mentioned SHIP a lot, but it is very useful. And this conference had a career fair, and I just came up to the person saying, hey, I have these skills. Does your company find a person with similar skills that I obtain? And they said, actually, it was like a match. So the rest is history.
Thank you. Becca, Adriana, your tips on how you found internships?
Yeah.
so-
Oh, sorry, go.
So my first internship was at General Electric Healthcare after my junior year. And I actually found that because one of my friends that I met through IISE, which is the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers, had interned with them the year prior, and she recommended me to the recruiting team for an internship program. So that's kind of how I got my first internship. My second internship was at a renewable energy company, and I met the representatives at the career fair, and I found out they were based in Houston, Texas. And I was actually going to the Grace Hopper conference, which that year was based in Houston, a couple weeks after the career fair. So I called them before, I kind of just cold called them before the conference. And then I ended up having 2 interviews set up when I was there. I didn't hear back from them for a while, so I called again a couple months later, did another interview with an engineering manager, and then I got offered a position for the summer. And then I worked part-time for L3 when I went to graduate school, and I got that internship through one of my friends that I met in my industrial engineering classes. He recommended me for it.
Thank you. Adriana?
Yeah, real quick. So I just completed my first internship this summer, and I made a video for a YouTube channel called Intern Makers that goes into detail about how I got that internship. I can link it in the chat. But basically, I got it through the engineering career fair, and I basically just went to the booth and said hi. I started talking about what I was genuinely interested in, which is sustainability, and I clicked with the recruiter. And it never crossed my mind that I would have an internship with that company, and I ended up there. So I have a few tips in that video that I was talking about. I know we're running out of time, but if you want to go check it out, you can learn more about my experience there.
Thank you, Adriana. Rick, Janine, Rachel, really quick, from your guys' side of the coin, tips that as people have hired internship, anything that you guys would advise these guys to do to make them stand out?
Yeah, I'll jump in. This is Rachel. So one of the things that you can do, and I just actually put it on the chat as well, was join ASQ as a student member. It's $31 a year to join, and they have section meetings in Phoenix every month, and it's a great opportunity for networking. You have access to a lot of companies and industries for internships. And the second thing is that my daughter got her first internship by going to an alumni event. So she went to an alumni event over the holidays, and I dragged her there and said, this is a networking, you take this opportunity to do this. And she was there. There was a person who was an alumni, talked to her, liked her, and offered her an internship for that summer. And that was her freshman year going into an internship.
Thank you. Janine, Rick, any quick tips for these guys on internship searching?
Go ahead, Janine, if you have anything.
Yeah, I think, a lot of ours will be, it's a little bit hard for you guys right now under the current virtual environment, but just keep your eye out, look in unconventional places, engage with people. I've heard it a couple times, you never know who you'll meet and never know who you'll talk to. Be bold, be brave, and, aim for the moon, right? Aim for the highest that you can go, and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
All right, Rick?
Yeah, we have a huge internship program at American Express. We hire tons and tons of interns, but don't be afraid to do some unconventional internships. Perhaps when you get to the later stages and you're ready to graduate, then maybe, go for that internship at the company you want to work for and try to get in that way. But I did my painting internship because somebody walked into my economics class and just threw it out there that, hey, we're doing something different. So I went for it, and I learned a lot, right? I still remember that experience today. Financially, complete disaster, but at the end of the day, it taught a lot of interesting things. So don't be afraid to get out of the box and try some new things. So I look for that type of stuff, and I think it'll serve you well
All right. On behalf of Fulton Schools of Engineering, I would like to thank you all for coming out today and spending some time with us. We know your time is very valuable, so we appreciate it greatly. Students, please be sure to take the Career Exploration Night survey, which is on page 3 of your workbook. A recording of this will be available in a couple days through your ASU 101 course, most likely on your Canvas. And everyone, please go ahead and log out of the webinar now. Thank you for attending. A good job and good night. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.